Hi, my name is Zsolt Ero, and this is the first video I'm making in a series about harness back protectors. Why am I doing this series? Because I proposed a working group on the Pilots Union platform called Harness Back Protectors. So I'm a pilot, I don't have any connection to any manufacturer. I've been part of the CIVL harness working group for the last 2 years. So everything I'm sharing with you is what I learned in that group and what I contributed to that group. I wrote an article called The Future of Paragliding Harness Back Protectors, which has been very well received. More than 12,000 people has read that article. My VPRS position is 155, so I'm definitely not an elite pilot, but I've been attending Cat 1 events and high-level competition events. My proposal is about we need to rethink harness back protectors. Over the last few years, the top competition scene has moved to 6 centimeter choroid protectors and pilots are getting injured. My proposal, step 1. Require a protector standard which is actually protecting pilots, backed by science. The current EN test is not, neither is the new EN draft. This must have jerk measurement. Step 2, if weight equalizers became mandatory, compensate for those harnesses which decide to use thicker protectors for heavier pilots. Now I got a lot of feedback about why am I doing step 2, and as I looked into it, I actually believe step 1 is way more important. I will focus on step 1. Okay, so in the next section, I will be talking about jerk, and I think many of my viewers don't understand what's this about. So there is a very basic introduction from my blog post, which I will link later, explaining what jerk is. So on this graph, you can see an acceleration which goes from 0 to 35G with a sharp break in the acceleration curve, and this is exactly what would cause a lot of physical problems because the human body cannot tolerate jerk. And jerk is what the definition of the smoothness or the graduality of this acceleration. We are all using the studies from NASA, which they made in the 1950s and 60s about airplane rocket ejection seats, and look at this graph here on this part of the window. This graph, you will see it a lot later on, which exactly explains how to do safe acceleration for the human limit. We have a smooth, gradual onset acceleration, and then a constant rate, and then we smooth back down. So this is the key. This is what jerk is about, is that we have to take care of this part, the smooth up and the smooth down ramp, not just the constant phase. The constant phase is the G limit. And many of my reasonings, which you will hear later on, is about that the problem with the current harnesses is that we are only checking for this maximum limit. We are not checking the smoothness of the up ramp and the smoothness of the down ramp, which is exactly what jerk measurement says. And also on this page, you can see the NASA study has different limits of the jerk. Pilots have suffered through these experiments. Many of them have broken vertebrae and spine injuries, and that's how NASA came up with the absolute upper limit of 1,300 G. This is the tolerable upper limit of a human. Other part of the article I'm writing about is that all the old harnesses like Cannibal 2, Exoseat, they all fit under the NASA limit. And then all the new harnesses like Gingini Race, Navio Drifter 2, or Ocean Submarine is massively over the safe limit. They are 5,700 and 8,000. Now we have a basic understanding about the physics. I would like to talk about what happened in the CIVL harness working group. So I wrote a timeline. I will share the link where you can find all these materials. So CIVL harness working group timeline. Everything started at 2021, DeSantis Super Finals, and Luc Armand wins on a submarine prototype. 2022, Nice European Championships. Luc Armand wins on a submarine, and Honorine Amard gets third place on a submarine Vita Zeno 2. In 2023, the CIVL harness working group forms. Max from Cortel is proposing limiting fairing length. So the problem is that the harnesses with a long tail can cover the pilot's face when they do a full stall or when they get a big collapse, and also minimum protector surface area. So the protector would cover a lot of the human back, not just the very minimum required by the EN standard. Then Josh is also proposing a minimum thickness for the back protectors, in addition to the G rating. Luke argues against design restrictive rules, and he proposes that we should concentrate on making sure that whole harness fits in a box. I want to tell about a few of those topics. Basically, we had like 3 or 4 big topics in this group. One was, of course, back protectors. Another one was open cockpit versus closed cockpit. So Submarine has a closed cockpit, Genie Race 5 has an open cockpit. We were discussing whether it should be enforced or should not be enforced on a CIVL level. And a third problem was the problem with the fairing, so the very long tails of these harnesses, which can possibly cover a pilot's face and vision during a collapse or during a full stall maneuver. And Luc Arman had his own proposal of making sure every harness fits in a box. He was very concerned that one day our sport would develop into a direction where we would have rigid bodies and we would just kill the nature of our sport. So for him, dimension limits and weight limits were the ones he proposed. Then Theonis introduces Dr. Matt Wilkes' research on harness safety. He's a paragliding pilot, a medical doctor, and a researcher, and suggests much tougher protector ratings. Then Tim from Niviuk proposes making the EN test stricter. He proposes lower G values. Then Simon from Woody Valley agrees lowering the G values and also proposes making sure there is a minimum surface area. Then I join the group and I share an illustration about the minimum dimension, how I imagine. So my concept is we measure the protector thickness in the classic area, which is under the seat plate. And once we measured it, fitting that EN test, we extend that length to make sure it covers the spine up till the T7 vertebrae. And also we extend it lower towards the seat plates. Josh agreed with my idea, and then Josh is the one who, following my post, introduces the concept of G-force change as jerk into the group. So this is the point from which we start talking about jerk measurement. So Volodymyr from Nearbirds is also validating the importance of jerk, and he makes an analysis of foam versus honeycomb protectors. And then Matt Wilkes joins the group, who is the before mentioned medical doctor, researcher, and paragliding pilot. And he validates the focus on jerk, the low gradient decelerations being very important for the human body. Then January it goes a bit unorganized. Max from Cortel raises concern that we are discussing about box dimensions, and we should concentrate on protector performance and fairing behavior so that the tail is not covering the pilot's face. Tim from Niviuk is again reinforcing his idea about lowering G values, and the manufacturers recommend that the protector should not be part of this working group. It should be trusted to the experts in EN WG6. In October, Tim confirms that the WG6 has lowered the impact values. And this is the point when I write my article, because I believe that we are going in the very wrong direction. We are looking at the same studies, but they are only concerned about G values, whereas the studies are very clear. We need to make a limit on both G values and jerk values. And that's why I write my article explaining the importance of jerk measurement. The 8th of November, Tim from Niviuk writes that they made a research on different kind of harnesses, and they believe that the 1300 value is very, very low. He believes that all this jerk measurement and G value measurement should better be left to the experts in the ENWG6 working group, and CIVL should not go into this detail. Then Fred from Ozone writes his response to my article, saying that I underestimated the minimum thickness, and he made the correct calculations, which are 12 centimeter. So the theoretical limit by his research is 12 centimeter if we follow the NASA values. Then Luke writes, I agree that jerk requirement should be dealt with by WG6, and the same for other points of the back protection. Then 4 days later, Bill from CIVL shares the final draft, which officially removes all protector-specific requirements and delegates this decision to the WG6 working group. So the final outcome is we had the card box rule accepted, all protector requirements dropped, the back fairing and long tail limits dropped, open cockpit requirement dropped. Also, which is ridiculous, the effective date discussion. We started saying we should do something safe by 26, then we pushed it to 27. Then mostly on the assumption that pilots do not want to spend money on a new harness, and because that's what pilots want without asking any pilots, the final basically says 2030. If we ever want to make an update for it, for example, better protectors, then the earliest date which can come into effect is 1 year later, 2031, if we make a proposal in this winter. So I'm sharing with you this background story because I want to show that I'm not like a lonely rebel who is fighting the system. We had a group of independent pilots and we had total agreement about what needs to be done and how those safety issues should be addressed. And the end result is basically what Niviuk and Ozon wanted in their very first message. They were very clear about no design restrictions, the back protector should be left to the EN, and Luke wanted a box and he got a box. I just checked, it was about 200 messages, a lot of work for a group of experts or group of volunteers. At the end, it was all thrown out the window, and this is what we have now. In the next video, I will talk about what happened in the year since. There's a new EN test. Surprise, surprise, still no jerk. Surprise, surprise, max G is 42, which is exactly how much the submarine can do. No directional test, no measurements about spine protection. The existing harnesses can almost pass it. So if you have some stories you want to share about your experiences with these new protectors and new harnesses, feel free to join the Pilot Union platform. You go on the website, on the lower right corner, there is a WhatsApp group, and join that WhatsApp group, and you're welcome to share your point of the story. See you soon.